Apparently on Monday night, the Windy City couldn't really handle the Category 5 storm that was the Carolina Hurricanes. And in overtime, once again, it's Sebastian, where he not only calls game, but he calls go fish on the Blackhawks.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers, also the Charlotte Checkers beat writer over at the Calder Times. I'm the co-host of the Searchcast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun winning Tuesday edition of the podcast. We get to go over the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3 overtime win against the Chicago Blackhawks. We get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour postgame, and we also get to preview the Tuesday game against the Dallas Stars for the second half of the back-to-back. But before we jump into all that, from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes go to Chicago for the first of their two meetings within 10 days of each other. And what I did say, looking back on the preview episode for the Monday show, it's, making sure that the special teams, does their thing, don't give up a lot of penalties, maybe one or two on each side, take advantage of it, because especially since the Blackhawks are pretty good on the special teams, but out 5-on-5 play. And in the end, it really did work out for the Carolina Hurricanes because they did, only give up two penalties each. The Hawks and the Canes did. Both of them went 0 for 2. But the Hurricanes did get a shorthanded goal. So in reality, the Hurricanes won the special teams battle. So it kind of worked out nicely from what I was trying to preview on that one. And I said either one or two each, and they got the shorthanded marker. And looking over this game, 48 shots for the Hurricanes, 25 for the Blackhawks, which, not really surprising when it's the Carolina Hurricanes with, their plethora amount of shots. 15 in the first, 13 in the second, 19 in the third, and 1 in overtime, and that's the only one that mattered. Now, for the Blackhawks, they did have 12 in the first, then went 6, 7 in the second, then the third, and then you had 0 shots in overtime. Now, looking at, a little bit of breaking down the stats and stuff like that, the Hurricanes were 60.6% of the face-offs, which, the Blackhawks aren't really usually good for that. They were 39.4, but they out-hit the Hurricanes 23-19, had more block shots 21-10, but when it comes down to it, the Carolina Hurricanes won. Frederik Andersen in his first game back since October. Of course, he had the surgery in November. This was his 500th game and his 299th career win as a goaltender. You love to see that for him. So it worked out perfectly in his first game back, his 500th career, win number 299, and that's something you love to see from Frederik Andersen in his first game back. But I will say, though, it was kind of dicey, especially after the first period. The Hurricanes were down 2-0. Philip Kurashev, who's hasn't played in 10 days, or I think it was there was a lot of games he didn't play recently, did score at 9:46. Of course, he got, backdoor from Ryan Donato. Defense kind of was puck watching. He was kind of left all alone behind them. And then Tyler Bertuzzi for his team-leading 17th of the season made it 2-0 at 16:55, banking it off of Andersen. It's one of those things where, you're out shooting the Hawks 15-12. Mrazek is just doing Mrazek things. And unfortunately, you're down 2-0. I know a lot of people are kind of, worried because, it is the worst team in the league. We know what happened against Buffalo. and Utah Hockey Club, the Seattle Kraken, the Anaheim Ducks, so on and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's still the Carolina Hurricanes. Yes, they are down, but as the period kind of droned on in the first, you kind of saw they were kind of a little bit getting an urgency going on, and the second period, well, their effort really did pay off early at 125. Of course, we talked about the shorthanded goal. Well, I mean, obviously, it's none other than Seth Jarvis. He gets the shorthanded marker just a minute 25 in, get the Hurricanes back within one. Sebastian with the assist, and Jacob Slavin. Like, not almost exactly 6 minutes later, but it was 6:01. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, backdoor, great pass by Eric Robinson, fighting for the puck behind the goal, was able to get it to Kotkaniemi, who's on the other side. Bing, bang, boom. Game's tied 2-2, and Jacob Slavin also picks his second assist of the game. Unfortunately, it didn't go tied into the third period 2-2. Ryan Donato, of course, gets the goal, and Philip Kurashev, pays him back for, assisting on his goal. He gets the secondary. That was with 18.7 seconds left. It's now 3-2. It's now 3-2 Chicago going into the last period. Period's going on. You're kind of thinking, okay, the Hurricanes have to figure it out, because they're just throwing up shot after shot after shot. Like I said, they had 19 shots in the third period. And wouldn't you know, staying also hot, just like Seth Jarvis in the goal scoring department, Jordan Staal, the captain, ties it at 13:37 into the third period for his 10th goal of the season. It was just an absolute fire drill in front of the Hawks net. There were so many bodies around. There was just a mad scramble. Everything is going on. He was able to get the puck and put it in the net for his 10th of the year. Jordan Marnick for his 15th assist. Orlov with his 18th. And we do end up going to overtime. So the Hurricanes got a point, which, hey, you hate it. You came back down from 2-0. Then you came back down from 3-2. Forced overtime, you got the point. But now can you get the second point? Well, it did not take long. It's 59 seconds into the period. Jacob Slavin for his third assist of the game passes to Martin Necas. Martin Necas is on the sidewall, sees Sebastian Aho between the dots, passes it perfectly with a nice sauce. Should have just put this thing on pasta. Even the Italian Nona would love this pass with the sauce going on to this one. And right into Sebastian Aho's wheelhouse, fires it in off of one of the just hardest slap shots I've seen him do in a very long time. His 14th of the season. I think this was his 15th overtime goal in his career. Only got to be in double digits. Just the puck blows by Mrazek. Boom. Game winner. Thank you. See you very much. And there's the 2 points for your Carolina Hurricanes. Now, speaking of this game, like I said, Seth Jarvis did get a goal, and this is from Kane Stats. Big shout out to them. The Carolina Hurricanes in regular season games are 59-5-5 if Seth Jarvis scores a goal. 59-5-5. That is just an insane record when it comes to Seth Jarvis scoring goals, because basically the next time they win again, when he scores, it's going to be 65-5. You're talking 70 games, and you've won 60 of them when that does happen. Right now, they're at 69 games, and they're with 59 wins. One more, there it is. There's your 60 wins in 70 games. So hopefully we get to see that very soon. But that's just wild when you look at a stat like that. And like I said, you had Frederick Anderson, getting his 299th win of his career, stopping 22-25 in his 500th game. Jordan Staal, while scoring in this game, was his 1,300th, which is amazing to see. And he's the first guy since the 2006 class to get to 1,300 games. Oh, yeah. And the game time goal, point number 700 of his career. So you love to see that from the captain. And I talk about Jacob Slavin getting his 3 assists. Well, he had 3 assists and played over 26 minutes of ice time for the Hurricanes. The last Hurricanes player to accomplish this, once again, this is from Kane Stats, was Yoni Pikkanen back in 2010 against the the no longer Atlanta Thrashers, which is just crazy to think. It's been 15 years since we've had a defenseman log over 26 minutes and have 3 apples in a game, and it was Joni Pikkanen back in 2010 against the Atlanta Thrashers. But you love to see it. You love the fact that you got, the captain getting a 700th point. Frederick Anderson gets a win in game number 500 of his career, 1 win shy of 300 now. And the fact that the captain also played in his 1300th game, first guy of the 2006 class to do that. Seth Jarvis is now 59-5-5 scoring for the Hurricanes in a game. Sebastian with another game winner. His 4th overtime goal of the season already. Talk about just being absolute clutch when it comes to extra hockey. Now the Carolina Hurricanes are putting themselves in a really good spot when you look at their overall record now. After this win against Chicago Blackhawks, which is, like I said, you love to see where they're at. 28-16-3, 57 points. And the most important thing is they are now second in the Metro Division, 1 point above New Jersey with 2 games in hand. Like I said, this is not a must win, but this is a can't lose. They've managed to not lose, and now they are in second place in the Metro Division above the Devils, who were 0-2-2 in their last 4 games, are now in third, and you get 2 games in hand on those guys. So now you're really putting yourself into a good spot. Yeah, you still have some points to climb to catch the Capitals, but now you're taking advantage of the Devils in a bad spot with their 0-2-2 record, and now you're in second. Try and put yourself a little bit farther. The Blue Jackets did lose to the Islanders 3-1 on Monday night as well. So now you're even getting more ground on the wild card spot, or the 4th place team in the Metro Division, which is, like I said, wild card spot. So now you're putting yourself into a better position if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, because now you've won 2 games in a row. You're hoping for a 3rd in a row against the Dallas Stars tonight on Tuesday, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But now you're putting yourself into a really good spot where if the Devils kind of keep struggling and you start stringing your wins together with those 2 games in hand, you could even distance yourself from 3rd. Granted, yes, you're still going to have to play them probably in the playoffs unless the Jackets catch New Jersey. But now you're not having to worry about wild card stuff and having all these other teams trying to come after you. So you'd love to see it. Big win. Great goals from, Jesperi Kotkaniemi even scored as well to tie it originally 2-2. So you got Jarvis, you got Kotkaniemi, you got Stahl, and you got Aho. I mean, the names alone, it tells you just how much this team dug deep in this game. Granted, yes, it wasn't the greatest of starts. It wasn't the greatest game overall for the Hurricanes, but they didn't roll over. They didn't just quit. They kept fighting, came back down from 2-0, tied it 2-2, gave up a very late goal with less than 20 seconds left of the period, came back to tie once again 3-3, and then you win in overtime and get the second point because Sebastian Aho is inevitable. Now, speaking of Rod Brind'Amour, and just about the game overall, he did have a press conference. We are going to listen to that and get our thoughts from what he said after the post game and all that stuff. So stick around as we'll jump into that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said, the end of segment 1, Rod Brind'Amour did meet with media after the game to talk about the team's overall game and their win against the Blackhawks. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now with Rod Brind'Amour.
Considering how tough Mrazek was against your guys.
Yeah, he always is. We know him in years past. Great goalie. But I give our guys credit. We didn't play a great game by any means, but we were digging. We were digging hard, and got to give credit to captain. You know, you talk to him before the game. It's the same stuff every night. Without him, I'm not sure where we'd be because he just, drags us in it every night.
Kind of building off of that, the 700 point, his 1300th game. It seems like he's playing some of his best hockey throughout this stretch to do it. What's really stood out to make that possible?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's the same. I just think he's getting rewarded with some good effort, and his line mates are playing well too. And whether it's Jarvie there or Marty, you got to give Marty credit too. That line is just really, it's our best line. It's not even close. These other guys, we got room to get better. So that's the good news for me. We got 2 points, but there's still a lot of room here to improve.
The way the game was going, how big was that shorty?
Oh yeah. We were dead in the water, right? Not a good start, and they're on a power play there. They get one that's probably lights out, but again, Jarvie and Sebastian, they've done a nice job on the kill this year, and that was huge. Got to spin the game and give us some life.
Another milestone night for Freddie Anderson in his return. What did you see from him?
Well, he made a lot of good saves early, even though we were down 2, and then. Not much the rest of the game. We were pretty solid, and then what happens? Breakaway, and for no reason. That's the stuff that's been killing us. Can't have that little flip out, and we're breakaway. But goalie came up huge. That's the save of the game because that's 2 points for them and nothing for us. It's he doesn't have that, so you got to give him credit too because he'd been out for whatever it is, and nobody really knew what we were going to get, and I'm sure he didn't really, and he was solid. So. Pretty happy for him.
Aho and H just always seem to find that connection in bonus hockey.
Right.
What do you see from them out there?
Well, it's and they're dynamic, and that's kind of their time, especially in Marty, I think. But it goes back to even the start of it, right? Jordan wins the face-off. We don't really lose possession, and we're able to get those guys out there. And talent we do have, they have that, and that was on full display there.
Big thank you to Rod Brind'Amour and the Carolina Hurricanes, as always, for that. And yeah, you can hear from him as well. It's the fact that the team dug in deep. They didn't let the game get out of hand. Yes, it was not the greatest of starts. You're down 2-0 after the first period. You were out shooting the Hawks, but it was kind of one of those things where you just feel like nothing was really going your way. And he even said, they were kind of dead in the water. And Aho and Jarvis have been really good on the PK this year, and that goes to show the growth that outside of Aho, Jarvis has been putting himself into a spot where he is very much needed on 5-on-5 play, no matter if it's on the offensive zone, defensive zone, face-offs, power play. He's also been using the penalty kill because of Tim Gleason and stuff like that. So it's like his 200-foot game has really put him into a spot where he is such a dynamic player that any situation the Hurricanes need him in, and that's what you really want to see when you get a guy on your PK unit who can score like that in Seth Jarvis. So you just love to see that. So it works out to where it's, that's a very big goal. Then KK's goal is really huge, and of course the captain reties it again. He's been an absolute heater, ever since the Pittsburgh Penguins game, the week where they were going to celebrate, his brother Eric. He's just been on one, and Rod said too, it's just him doing his job per usual, but now he's getting rewarded for the effort. Now he's up to 10 goals already. He's up to 10 goals already, and he's just being on an absolute heater. And Freddie comes back, plays really solid for the team for his first game back since October. You're going against Pierre Mrazek, who I think the last 5 of his biggest I think his top 5 biggest games where he had to do a whole bunch of saves, I think 3 of them are Carolina. It's 45 shots against, 47 and 49. It's just insane of just the amount of saves he's had to do against the Hurricanes that he's over 120 saves overall against the Canes. Of course, a lot of his record is pretty solid for the most part. But you're talking a guy who's had to save over 120 shots against the Hurricanes in his career, where his 5 biggest amount of saves in a game, 3 of them are from the 3 of them for the Hurricanes, and that's coming after the guy helped the team make the playoffs back in 2019. Oh man, Pierre Mrazek. They talk about just keep it's all right, we're gonna have to go against the Hurricanes, and it's just an onslaught every single time that the Hurricanes face them. But Yeah, and just to the Hurricanes, wasn't the greatest of starts. The shorthand goal was huge, the 2 tying goals, and then Sebastian doing his thing. And now and Rod even said it too, it's like there's still another level to get for the Hurricanes. I know there is. And it's something that's just they're going to have to keep something they have to keep working on. But overall, I mean, if you look at this team, they're still in a good spot. Like I said, they're second in the division, not that far back of the Capitals. They're 1 point ahead of New Jersey, but with the Columbus loss, now they're putting themselves a little bit farther from a wild card. So, yeah, every game is not going to be pretty. There's going to be some games where you're kind of like, okay, this should have been done a lot easier. Not the case because, like I said, every team's got stars, man. Every team's got. We talk about Teuvo Teravainen. He's been leading the team in almost every offensive category for the last 5 games. You got Ryan Donato, who's very underrated. Alex Vlasic on the defensive side of things. Still got a former MVP and Taylor Hall on the team. You got Nick Foligno. So you still got dudes, even on it. Blackhawks team is very much struggling, who once again scores the first goal of the game and loses it. And they blew 2 leads in this game. So what can you really do? But overall, wasn't the prettiest of games, but the Hurricanes doing their thing. Came back, won it, got the 2 points. It's all that really matters, and now you leapfrog the New Jersey Devils and took advantage of them struggling. So that's it for that. The Hurricanes doing 4-3 in overtime against the Chicago Blackhawks. And now it's off to Dallas for the second half of the back-to-back, and we will preview that game here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked on Hurricanes. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. That's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it so easy to find the perfect insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonAHL. Go to selectquote.com/NHL today to get started. Once again, that's selectquote.com/lockedonAHL. SelectQuote. They shop and you save. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked on Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes are going for a second half of a back-to-back on Tuesday night in Dallas against the Stars. This is going to be another national televised game, ESPN Plus and on Hulu. Of course, your Hurricanes are 20-16-3. The Dallas Stars 29-16-1. This is an 8 p.m. Eastern time start, so not as late as the Blackhawks game, but it's a little bit. It's an hour later than, of course, our per usual start time on the East Coast since they're in the Central. The last time these two teams faced off was back on November 25th, where the Hurricanes subsequently beat the Dallas Stars in a very close set of games where they came back and won 6-4. So this is the last game of the 2-game season set. Now, over the last 5 games, who are the players to watch in terms of the points, goals, and assists? Well, for points, Jacob Slavin with 5, 4 of those being assists. And, of course, in goals, Seth Jarvis with 4. Now, for the Dallas Stars, it's actually Jason Robertson with 8 points, 5 of those being goals. And Wyatt Johnson leads the team with 5 assists in the last 5 games. Now, looking at the tail of the tape, looking at the special teams, the power play for both of these teams are surprisingly low for where they're at. 16th for the Hurricanes at 21.4, and the Dallas Stars are 18.9 and 24th. So you're almost you're in that spot where you're either dead middle of the league or you're kind of towards the bottom. So even for the two teams that basically have 28 wins and 19 wins and the same amount of losses, Power play wise, they're kind of average for the most part. Now, this is where it's very interesting is the penalty kill. Carolina second at 84.9. Of course, they just went 2 for 2 against the Blackhawks. But the Dallas Stars are actually the best penalty killing team in the AHL right now at 85.5%. So the Hurricanes aren't too far off if they're able to stifle the 24th ranked power play for the Dallas Stars and somehow manage to score a power play goal of their own. They could really make the penalty killing numbers very interesting to where they might take over the first place spot. Now, in terms of faceoffs, Hurricanes are third at 52.8 compared to the Dallas Stars at 52.2, which is fifth. Goals for per game. Carolina comes in at 3.32 because obviously there's got 4 goals against Chicago, which is fifth in the NHL compared to Dallas, with a 3.17 has them in ninth. Now, goals allowed. Well, the Dallas Stars do have a little bit of an edge over the Hurricanes at number 4 in the league with a 2.5 compared to the Hurricanes who are in eighth at 2.77. Of course, we all know they agree one thing on the stats, but how is it looking on the ice? So, Hurricanes in their last 10 games, they are 6-3-1. Of course, they've won their last 2 games against the Vegas Golden Knights and on Monday night in overtime against the Chicago Blackhawks. Before that, they lost 2, won 2, then it was win 1, lose 1. Now for the Dallas Stars, they are actually 7-3-0 in their last 10, and 7 of those games, well, they did have a 5-game winning streak against Ottawa, an overtime win against Utah, an overtime win against the Rangers, beat Philadelphia, shootout win over Montreal, then lost to Ottawa, beat Toronto, then I have back-to-back losses against the Canadiens and the Colorado Avalanche before beating the Detroit Red Wings in their last game. Now, looking at the goaltending situation for both sides, obviously we just got Frederik Andersen, who's now at a 4-1-0 record with a 1.78 goals against because he gave up 3 goals, but still rocks a .929 save percentage, was a 941, but still relatively good, especially in his first game back since October. Now, we know that he played in the game against the Blackhawks, which I kind of figured would probably be the case. First game back, you really don't want to put him against a team like Dallas. First game back after being gone since October. So now we know it's going to be a Pyotr Kochetkov, who is 17-9-2 with a .252 goals against average and a .902 save percentage, but does have 1 shutout. Now for the Dallas Stars, this is where it's getting interesting because you got Jake Ottinger, 23-10-1 with a .226 goals against, a .914 save percentage and a shutout, while you also got Casey DeSmith, who's 6-6 with a .261, a .905 save percentage, and a shutout. Now, depending on what it looks like for the Dallas Stars and where they're looking at overall, I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to play their game, who's going to be in net. I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Ottinger, but if they played, with the night before, then we might be going with Casey DeSmith. But I think for the most part, if they didn't really play on Monday, I would not be shocked if we see Jake Ottinger going up against Pyotr Kochetkov in this game in Dallas for the second half of a back-to-back. Still be very interesting how that works out. So players to watch, going to do this real quick for both sides. Obviously, Sebastian, 46 points in 47 games, over 20 minutes. He's been playing lights out. Same thing for Seth Jarvis, 34 points in 40 games, 16 goals, 18 assists. He's still on a path for another 60-point season. But now he puts himself into a really great spot where he's tied with Martin Necas for second in goals on the team, only 1 behind Jack Roslovic. And then looking at the defense side of things, obviously, Jacob Slavin, 18 points in 47 games, just got 3 more assists against the Blackhawks, putting him up to 15, averaging 21 minutes and 33 seconds, which is now leading the defense in the team overall. Now you're going against guys like Sagan, Ben, Robertson, Stankoven, Johnson. So you know the Hurricanes are going to be using Jacob Slavin a lot when it comes to shutting down the Stars' top players. Now, speaking of top players, obviously Matt Duchene, 45 points in 46 games, 18 goals, 27 assists. Jason Robertson, 42 points in 46 games. Of course, he's been 8 points in the last 5 games, 5 of those being goals. So he's been on a little bit of a tear for the Stars. And if you talk about defense, you talk about Jacob Slavin. Well, you also got to talk about Mira Heiskanen, a really good defenseman that everyone keeps their eyes on, over 25 minutes per game. So that'll be very, very interesting how that plays out. But second half of a back-to-back, you're going to Dallas after you just played Chicago, so the travel shouldn't be too bad. It's probably going to be a late night for those guys, but they're professionals. They'll get their sleep, and they should be ready to go. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Pierre Kachekov, and it could be probably Jake Ottinger for the Stars. If you can get a point out of it, hey, you'll take that. So I guess we'll see how that goes. On Tuesday night in Dallas, and like I said, once again, ESPN Plus and Hulu on TV, and of course 99.9 The Fan per usual. So there you go. Of course, with Mike and Trip. So it should be very interesting. I'm really curious to see how the game goes, especially for the fact, like I said, it's the second half of a back-to-back, ends in the Central Time Zone. Luckily, it's not an 8:30 start, just 8 o'clock, so not as bad. But guys, that will wrap up the Tuesday episode of Locked on Hurricanes. Taking your first listen of the day. For your second listen, well, check out Locked on Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked on Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. I do have link trees in both my bios, where you can check out all my writing at the Hockey Writers and also on the Calder Times. If you want to check out my other podcasts, it's the Searchcast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, Locked on Hurricanes is on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read on the show. For YouTube, well, Locked on Hurricanes, subscribe. Click the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Leave a thumbs up button. Let me know if you liked the show as well. Share with all other Caniacs who become everydayers just like you. I hope everyone enjoyed the Tuesday episode of Locked on Hurricanes. Hope everyone has a great Tuesday in watching the Carolina Hurricanes tonight against the Dallas Stars. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.